Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Ready to talk about our chubby old butler friend.
You consider Alfred chubby?
Well, he used to be.
Yeah, okay, alright, we'll get into it. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is Mr. Steve Baxey.
What's up?
Hey. So today we are continuing our character discussions, and we're talking about a character, Alfred, or Alfie, as we call him, since he guests on the show regularly, right? That's who we're talking about. You know, I really did think about inviting Alfie to come on, and I was like, yeah, but then I was like, it'd just be weird, because then every time I say Alfred, he'd be like, hi, and I'd be like, no, not you, and it'd just be like History of the World all over again. No, we're talking about Alfred Pennyworth, Batman's possibly most valuable assistant character.
Possibly? I think pretty definitively.
You think so? I know you're a big Tim Drake and Dick Grayson fan, so I wasn't sure where you'd come down on that one.
Dick and Tim would not have the relationship they have to Bruce without Alfred. Like, Bruce can get along just fine without a lot of people. I don't think he gets along without Alfred.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And it's weird because I wasn't 100% on the history of Alfred's before I did this. So, you know, I did some research. By research, I watched a couple YouTube videos, as any good rigorous scientist would do. And it's interesting because Alfred didn't come around to 4 or 5 years into Batman continuity.
Well, and at that point, he wasn't even the Alfred that we knew. He didn't become Alfred Wayne family butler until
the 80s.
Yeah, at least until the 70s or 80s. It was a really long way in.
Mm-hmm. And that's always been something really interesting about the character, the surrogate father role he played. So just it always baffles me that it took that long to get there, you know?
Yeah. It's one of those things where you kind of think it's always been there.
Yeah, and then you find out that someone had to create it, and you're like, why? Why didn't this just immediately be the thing we did with this character?
Yeah.
But and I guess that's just telling of how perfect a fit or a take it is on a character to do that. So I don't know, but anyway, Alfred Pennyworth is just one of those interesting things that is so very Batman. You know, you just kind of see him floating around, and he's always got the super dry wit. I was watching a couple best of Alfred Pennyworth videos, and I'd forgotten some of the better moments from Batman the Animated Series where Barbara Gordon gets shown the cave, and he's Alfred comes around the corner and she goes,
indeed, I am Batman.
Yep. And then it's in Static Shock too, where Static's wakes up and Alfred's operating on him. He's like, who are you? Batman. Yeah, right. Just once I would like someone to believe that.
Oh, I love it. I love that dry wit.
It's so good. And like I said before we started recording, I did some reading for this one too. I went back and I decided to cut off my own foot. I mean, read whatever happened to the Cape Crusader.
To be fair, that would have been less painful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. And that has the gentleman's tale, which is Alfred talking about how he ended up killing Bruce Wayne and stuff like this. So, indirectly. But yeah, Alfred's always got these great moments of dry wit, and in that one, Batman discovers his Joker gear, and he's like, what is this, Alfred? Costume, sir. I plan to go trick-or-treating for Halloween. Oh my god. That is so...
It's so good. It's so sad, though. for the most part, I feel like Alfred and Bruce's relationship is really heartwarming, but like there is so much tragic overtone in it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's just a thing of like, who the hell has a butler for a godfather? You know, it's so bizarre, but somehow it just works perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and again, it's that weird thing where this was not part of Batman's canon until really late in the game, but it feels like something they should have done in the 30s.
Yeah, I agree. And, like, I don't know, I think it's really interesting because the way they write Alfred, you totally buy that the Waynes would leave Bruce to him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know Alfred for, like, 5 minutes and you're ready to leave him everything.
Oh, definitely. And, like, you know, I love the way Michael Caine plays him in the Nolan films. I think he does just a beautiful job of communicating this like wise old man, and he's always so damn empathetic and emotional, and he still has those moments of absolute hysterical humor. What's the point of all those bloody push-ups if you can't even lift a damn log? But like, man, you watch, I know you don't really care for Dark Knight Rises, but that scene where Alfred quits is so damn heartbreaking to me.
It is pretty emotional. If only the rest of the movie supported it, but if it is pretty emotional if it didn't suck.
Yeah, fair enough. And then like again at the end when he's looking at the grave.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that is pretty sad.
It's just like I can't sit there and watch Michael Caine cry. It's not okay.
Like kicking a puppy, you just don't do it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, to get more general into the character. In your headcanon, who dies first, Bruce or Alfred?
It's gotta be Alfred.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of Alfred outliving Batman, but ultimately, insofar as Batman's the main character of a Batman universe, there's a lot more potential, a lot more to do with Bruce having to deal with Alfred's death as opposed to Alfred dealing with Bruce's death. Because I feel like Alfred is a secure, I guess maybe might be the word, or mentally fit enough person to understand that Bruce at one of these days is not coming back, and if he dies, he can live with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Alfred would certainly be broken up about it, but I don't think Alfred would have an identity crisis the same way Bruce would if Alfred died.
No, that's fair. That's an interesting way to look at it. Are you reading White Knight by Sean Gordon Murphy right now?
I am, yes.
Yeah. That book I am back and forth on at various points, but
it's interesting.
Damn if that is not the greatest Alfred death I've ever seen.
Oh, I absolutely agree. It's fantastic.
Yeah, for those that haven't read it, issue number 3 of White Knight is just tragic as fuck in 2 fucking pages. Because he's not so subtly ripping off Batman and Robin, but doing it well, where Alfred is sick with the same thing that affected, what's her name?
Nora Freeze.
Nora Freeze, thank you. He's sick with the same thing that infected Nora Freeze, and so Bruce is trying to treat him, but in White Knight, Bruce gets injured really badly and goes to the same hospital room that Alfred's at to try to just take care of himself and keep an eye on Alfred. And then he, like, passes out due to blood loss. And when he wakes up, he's in Alfred's hospital bed, hooked up to Alfred's machines, and Alfred's sitting there dead in the observer chair. And he's left Bruce a note. And that is, like, the most tragic and possibly best Alfred death I could ever imagine.
It's real bad. Oh man, it is definitely really gut-wrenching. That book is really interesting, partly as just a weird anti-Dark Knight Returns, but yeah, I love the way Sean Gordon Murphy writes Alfred, so.
Yeah, like that, what I like so much about that scene is I feel it really, really epitomizes their relationship. Where Alfred, end of the day, he was put in charge of a child. He never had a child, right? So Alfred gave up his entire life to take care of this child who had everything taken away from him. or the most important thing taken away from him, let's say. And he didn't give it a second thought. He didn't hesitate to do it. If I ever read a scene where Alfred is, like, mad at Bruce Wayne because he's not got the chance to, like, go out and meet a woman, I'm just going to say that's probably a poorly written book, no matter how human or realistic that may be. Just perfectly honestly. So just the act of Alfred dying, giving up literally his own lifeline to save Bruce one last time, it's so good.
No, it's absolutely fantastic. Alfred in general always has not only Bruce's best intentions in mind, but also he's always right. He always knows how this is going to go. I generally like the idea that Alfred is, if not as smart, in a lot of ways smarter than Batman is, and Alfred just likes to let Bruce do his thing because Bruce likes to have his moments.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Well, I don't mean in the sense that, like, Alfred can, like, figure out a crime before Bruce could, but he's clearly a lot more emotionally and personally aware than Bruce ever is.
Oh no, that's totally the case, because Bruce is like, that's just within Bruce's character. Is he's shed away a lot of his humanity, a lot of his ability to empathize with people, because he treats everything like a frickin' science. Yeah. One of my favorite descriptions of Batman ever came from the character Tarantula, if anyone remembers her from the
woman
games.
that raped Nightwing.
Oh, well, I did not know that about her, but damn.
Oh, yeah. Did you not know that? Yeah, that was a whole thing with her. That's the only reason anyone knows her.
Well, I know her for a completely different reason. Thank you very much. I remember reading War Games, or maybe it's War Crimes or War Drums, but in that whole sequence, she sees Batman fight a bunch of, like, street gang members at one point, and she describes the act of watching him fight, and she's like, it's like a science. He fights like math. He never extends his arm further than it needs to be. And that's, like, always really internalized for me, because I think that's a really good just description of how Batman treats everything. Everything is perfectly precise and measured and thought through, but you can't do that with people. You can't do that with social interaction. I can't remember what it's from, but I remember Dick talking to Batman in a comic at one point and being like trying to just tell him, hey, Barbara and I are thinking of getting back together and everything. And Bruce isn't paying any attention. He's like, I just thought you'd like to know that. And Bruce looks at him and goes, noted. And that's just the kind of person Bruce Wayne is in a lot of ways. He is very emotionally stunted, not just because he stopped aging at 8, but because he like analyzes and tries to rationalize everything, and Alfred's much more emotionally intelligent and tries to fill in for that side of his personality, at least in the interpersonal relationships.
So how do you like to read Alfred's history? Because there's the original pre-crisis bumbling detectives, I should say. There's the idea that he was in the military, that he was Secret Service, that he was an actor, that he just comes from a family of butlers. How do you like to categorize that?
I gotta go with that he was in the British Army, but I really like the field medic idea, that he was like a really talented field medic. The only problem with that is, like, when was the last time Britain needed field medics?
Yeah.
You can modernize it and you can be, okay, he's an Iraq War veteran or something, but then that makes Bruce really young in a weird way.
That's partly where I think the British Secret Service idea comes from, where, like, he can be a field medic without ever being in an official war.
Yeah, and see, when you make it Secret Service, something about it just changes the context, and I'm less okay with it, you know?
Yeah, no, it's problematic either way.
Yeah, well, like, field medics, at the end of the day, no matter what political affiliation you have, I'm kind of on the side. I don't. Let me start over. End of the day, no matter the political affiliation, soldiers are people, and they're usually not thinking what they're doing all the way through. So I have, to a degree, sympathy for them. not even sympathy. I have compassion for them because that's a lesser form. And so I don't want people to die in trenches and stuff like that on any side of a conflict. I do not like that. And so, the field medics or maybe he's an, I don't know, could you make Alfred like, what's that, Peace Corps? Could Alfred be Peace Corps? That could work.
I'd be alright with Peace Corps. I do
or Red Cross, maybe.
I like in some cases where it's a combination of both, where he did some sort of form of military secret service for part of his life and discovered his passion was acting and did that for the rest of his life.
See, I don't know, like at a certain point it's just how much did he live before he went to go be with the Waynes, because, no matter what background he has, I do not want to give up for a second that he was there when Bruce was born.
Well, no. Well, okay, so there's that, but there's also the idea that Alfred, there's a particular comic that does this in the 90s. I want to say it's when Nightwing... Because Alfred quit as Batman's butler for a while there, and he had to be convinced to come back. And there's a particular comic where he's talking about how his family has always been in the form of butlering. And when he was a kid, he didn't want to do that, so he ran away and did a whole bunch of shit until at some point his dad died and he needed to fill in for him, and that's when he found a really great respect for the Wayne family and decided to stay.
Okay, and that could work.
It's just really contrived, though. That's the annoying thing, is that, like, no matter what you make Alfred do, it's always going to be, like, really conveniently helpful to Batman.
Yeah, and that's where the field medic kind of, like, training comes in, because, I mean, he stitches Batman up every goddamn night, you know?
He has to.
At this point, DC just needs to bite the bullet a little bit and give Bruce... Like, he's got magical friends. None of them can just say, oh, here's a healing pit for you. So Alfred doesn't have to constantly stitch up your wounds.
Just call Zatanna every week and be like, hey, can you, like, magically sew these for me?
I mean, it would be almost necessary, the number of injuries Bruce Wayne is shown to get, right?
Yeah.
So anyway... No, but you're right. Whatever backstory you give Alfred, it's going to have some kind of implication on who Bruce on being useful for Bruce Wayne. Which is,
I don't think that's inherently a bad thing either, because I like the idea that if Alfred is military, there's a militarism to Batman that comes from that. If Alfred's an actor, there's a theatricality to Batman that comes from that. And if he's both, there's both.
Mm-hmm. Well, like, the interesting thing is, like, maybe if you're gonna just admit that, maybe you should just, embrace it and really go all out with it, which is what I feel like Jeff Johns did in Earth 1. And I really like his take on Alfred in Earth 1. I know you and Alex didn't care for it as much, but, like, that scene where Bruce is kind of, like, idealized the idea of what Batman can be, kind of, I think this is John's take on the Nolan films. He's kind of idealized the idea of Batman as a symbol of hope, and Alfred's kind of very realistic about it. You're going and getting shot at every night. You need to get your head in the goddamn game and realize what's going on. And so he just starts, literally fighting Bruce, and I love the moment, because Alfred has a false leg. That's not the right word. Why can't I think of the word? Has a prosthetic leg.
Prosthetic leg? Yeah.
Yeah. He has a prosthetic leg. And so as he's punching Bruce to try to get his head in the game and drive home his point, Bruce kicks his leg out. That is, like, a really, really good scene in my book. That is probably in my top 10 Alfred and Batman scenes, to be honest with you.
It's a pretty good moment, but yeah, I don't love grizzled, tough, fucking diehard Alfred. I like that Alfred is more posh than that.
That's fair. That is really fair. I think the middle ground between, like, that and, like, animated series would probably be Beware the Batman.
Yeah, Beware the Batman is a terrific Alfred.
Yeah, I liked him in that. That was quite fun.
That Alfred is basically what if James Bond retired and raced Batman.
You're not wrong.
No, he's got all of the flair. It's great.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. It's a good point. So is that your favorite Alfred?
Outside of comics, yeah.
Oh, okay. So is there like a particular take someone had on Alfred that you really like?
Alfred's one of those characters where when you write him wrong, it's really obvious. But for the most part, if you're writing Batman, it's hard to write Alfred wrong. Alfred's like every time someone writes a Batman book or a Superman book or any kind of like big tentpole superhero, they want that version of the character to be their version. Like Bendis's Daredevil is Bendis's Daredevil, right? But I do like about comics that given what era you're going on or what company you're going on, writers don't have that mentality, and you're just looking at like decades of one character being progressed and it's irrelevant who's writing. Alfred's one of those characters where he isn't by himself often enough to necessitate any writer giving a take, even when they do. He's just kind of consistent throughout. That said, Morrison writes a fantastic Alfred. Tom King writes a fantastic Alfred.
I gave him a katana.
Huh?
He asked for a katana for his 8th birthday.
I know, it's so funny. He's been this way ever since.
The fact that people got mad at that scene and said Bruce is too mean to Alfred, I was like, no, you missed it. It was right there, you missed it.
Doug Monk writes a really good Alfred. Chuck Dixon writes a really good Alfred. Like it's hard for me to find a guy that wrote, or just a person in general that's written Alfred poorly. Although that kind of makes me think, because I said person, but I can't remember the last time a woman wrote Batman, if ever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Besides the point, I have a hard time finding bad characterizations of Alfred. All you have to do to write Alfred is just write a sarcastic confidant.
No, I mean that's one of the strengths of Batman, right? Like, in order to write a good Batman story, you don't have to write a good Bruce Wayne or a good Batman. You can write a good Alfred, you can write a good Nightwing, you can write a good Jim Gordon. There's a really rich cast of characters to work with there.
Would you... Because people have like those tentpole characters in Batman, like Gordon's one of them, Robin is one of them, regardless of who Robin is, and Alfred's one of them. Of that like trinity of important characters, do you think Alfred's the most important?
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I would kill Jim Gordon and I would have all the Robins move out and go to college before I got rid of Alfred.
Yeah, like, which is weird because he's the youngest. Gordon was there since issue 1. Robin was there since Batman #1. Like, it's really bizarre that Alfred is this weird tentpole character.
Alfred's everybody's dad in the Batcave, though.
He really is. That's part of what I love about White Knight, is that there is a whole conversation about that after Alfred dies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's a really good scene, too. Despite the weirdness with Jason Todd being Robin before Dick Grayson, but whatever.
Well, and Scott Snyder doesn't write a good Batman, but I think it's Endgame, where Alfred's in the hospital, and, like, the Robins, particularly Nightwing, talks about, like, going to Alfred with dad stuff, like, talking to girls, and I really liked that scene.
Yeah,
I really like the idea that Alfred is more of a dad than he is a grandfather to the Robins.
No, I agree with that, because Bruce seems almost more like a big brother half the time, and the only time I felt like Bruce has legitimately been a father figure is to Damian, his literal son. You know?
In which case he has no choice.
Yeah, in which case, like, Alfred's like, okay, fine, this one's not adopted anymore, you don't get to run away from this. And to be fair, he didn't have much interaction with Damian before he died, and by the time he came back, there was a major character shift.
Yeah,
Hold on a sec. Thinking... Did Scott Snyder ever write Damian in the New 52 Batman run? Did he appear for more than, like, a page?
I don't think so.
Like, I remember the scene where all the boys are getting their portrait together with Bruce, but I don't think he's in any, like, anything else at all.
Well, because
extensively.
Tomasi was writing Batman and Robin when Snyder was doing Batman. And in Batman and Robin, they were doing their whole thing together, and all the Court of the Owls tie-ins and stuff was all handled in the Batman and Robin book. I don't think Snyder ever did Damian.
That's crazy. Thank God, but that's crazy.
That is, yeah, I didn't even realize that, because I'm just playing it through my head. Court of Owls, Death of the Family, Endgame, 0 Year, Bloom. Yeah, I don't think he's ever written Damian.
Yeah, it's weird. At least not like, in a story arc with Bruce.
Well,
He's
yeah,
probably
like,
like shown up here or there, but
he wasn't a main character in any of it. Yeah, he just cameos.
yeah, that's weird. But to get back to his Alfred though, I never I liked things about Snyder's Alfred. That could sometimes work, but then he has Alfred get his hand cut off, and I was like, okay,
why was that unnecessary? That was a thing.
It's so weird to talk about that, right? Because earlier I'm like, Jeff Johns having Batman kick out Alfred's prosthetic leg is great. Alfred getting his hand cut off as a sacrifice for Bruce is awful. And yet, there's not much of a difference between those two things.
Well, okay, so one is not canon, for one.
Mm-hmm. Fair, but still.
And the other is, at the very least, because I don't love Batman Earth 1 in general. I think the second volume is pretty good, but just in general, I don't like Earth 1. That said, though, the scene in which Alfred gets his leg kicked out is, one, really particular to that version of Alfred. That's a thing that Alfred would do. That is a thing that enhances his character as much as it enhances Bruce. Whereas getting Alfred's hand chopped off is kind of meaningless, partly because he's unconscious for almost the entire time he doesn't have his hand.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah,
Did they even bother trying to explain how he got that back?
Do something dramatic without killing a character.
Okay, did they ever explain how he got that back, or did we just get to Rebirth and say fuck it?
No, we just got to Rebirth and said fuck it, because I don't want to explain where the magical hand comes from.
That's so... but part of me really wants that comic book to exist.
Oh, no, there's... I kind of want this to happen now that you said that. There's an episode of Angel where one of the main characters... Not main characters... But one of the core characters from the first season gets his hand chopped off in the second season. Mm-hmm. And he has an episode really late in that season where he gets a new hand, but the hand he gets comes from this organ harvesting operation, and it has the personality of the person that used to belong to, and it's just an evil hand, and it's hilarious.
Oh, that's one of those classic 18th century stories too. That's so funny.
It's 19th great because it starts creepy where it wants to stab his eye out and stuff, but then at some point he just kind of trains it, and his hand is like a puppy, and it's great.
That's hilarious.
He blows up at a meeting and just keeps saying "evil hand" over and over again. It's awesome.
That's really funny. Do you have a favorite version of Alfred that's been done, movies or TV?
Beware the Batman.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Beware the Batman has partly my favorite Alfred because I think Alfred has a really compelling side story, and the idea that Alfred has two sons competing for each other is a fantastic idea.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Particularly with that version.
Yeah, I could see that. I really, really like what Michael Caine did with him. And, the Burton movies aren't very good, but, man, the actor that plays him is probably one of the best things about the entire series,
Oh, no, absolutely. He is remarkable. Michael Goff.
Yeah, thank you. And he passed away a couple years ago, which is, sucks.
And as bad as the Snyderverse is, and as bad as the characterizations are, Jeremy Irons is a good pick for Alfred.
I think he does an okay job with it. I mean, he is very much Frank Miller Alfred, where he's even got lines directly out of Dark Knight Returns. Yeah.
But that's partly Snyder's Dark Knight Returns, grim, gritty, beat the shit out of you with manliness bullshit. Yeah,
fair. I don't know, I think Alfred's one of the only characters making any goddamn sense in those movies. It's just, he's no one's listening to him. And he's still doing all the things to help.
That's the thing with those movies, where when I first saw Batman vs. Superman, I hated it, but I thought Alfred was fun because he's just being sarcastic about all of this terribleness as it's happening. And I told that to my friend when we went to watch it the second time, and he hated Alfred because he said, all of these terrible things are happening, and all he's doing is being a smartass about it. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Alfred being a smartass only works if Bruce isn't a dick. In which case, he's just a negligent dad being a smartass about it.
Oh, just rub some dirt in it, Junior. No, you're right, but, he's got some points in there that he's trying to rationalize with Bruce. He is probably the the one thing that if you were ever going to be able to save Batman vs Superman, it's with the Alfred line that all it takes is for good men to turn cruel.
Yeah.
Like that is a really Alfred line. And Jeremy Irons does a great job with it. I remember when like it was announced that he would be playing Alfred and that Jesse Eisenberg would be Lex Luthor, and it was like, oh man, no, Jeremy Irons should be Lex Luthor. I'm like, no, I'm perfectly fine with him being Alfred. That night, I don't want a British Lex Luthor. There's something very American about Lex Luthor.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's modeled when he was reinvented by John Byrne to be a really particular kind of American businessman. So
yeah. All right, let's go ahead and go on to recommendations though for Alfred. I gotta go with the Gentleman's Tale from Whatever Happened to the Cape Crusader, because it just shows the lengths and dedication that Alfred will go to turned on its head in like a dark way. I love the way that Sean Gordon Murphy sends him off. That's kind of forever headcanon for me for how Alfred dies.
It's really good.
Yeah. So that's Batman White Knight #3. You don't even have to read the whole issue. Just read the pages that have Alfred on them. And it totally works. And then I don't know, what else is a good one to recommend with Alfred? I saw a summation of a scene from Injustice where Alfred takes one of them kryptonite pills and beats the shit out of Superman. That was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
So yeah, I don't know. Plenty of Alfred stuff out there. He's a witty bastard.
That's true. He is. For me, Beware the Batman's a good one. I think that's a really good, really unique Alfred, and I think it does the Earth 1 style right, at least for me. It's kind of cheap to recommend it just because it's not necessarily Alfred's story, but the first arc of Morrison's Batman and Robin, when I think it's the last issue of that first arc where Alfred talks about Batman being a great role, and I think that's always been very quintessentially Alfred to me. Good Boy by Tom King is another fantastic Alfred story. It is basically Alfred's story.
No, that is totally Alfred's story. That is Alfred and Ace's story. You're right. That's a great point.
And then there's the 90s thing after he quits being Batman's butler and Nightwing goes to find him and get him to rehired. I forget what that particular arc is called. It's not the Hunt for Alfred. It's the Hunt for Oracle, so it's not the Hunt for Alfred, but it's something like that. Search for Alfred or something like that. It's basically a story where Nightwing in his massive ponytail that goes all the way down to his thigh tries to talk to Alfred and bring him back into the Bat family.
Okay, then.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, sounds cool. All right. Steve, what character are we going to be talking about next time?
Next time, let's talk about Daffy Duck.
Daffy Duck. Woo! 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 All right. Sounds good. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Exile.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen. And we will be discussing